What is up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Dad's Life Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Flack 2.0, and welcome to the show. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about what's new and good with you, what's new and good with me, tablets versus toys, and another shout out in our new segment, Holla at Your Homie. So let's just get back into it. So what's new and good these past couple of months? The wife, she's actually been in a cast. She injured her ankle. She tore a tendon. And there's been a lot of focus put on her healing, getting stuff done around the house, kind of keeping everything on the up and up while she's been recovering from her injury. So that's what's new. What's good about that particular thing is she actually is showing a little bit of healing. They moved her from a cast to a boot, and so she's able to get around a little bit better, is a little bit more comfortable, but we're still on the mend. So at least we see some type of progress. So that's definitely what's good. Also, in the past week, I've attended one wedding, and one of our friends got married. So two weddings. So that's a beautiful thing. And then also one of our friends just had her second baby. So that's definitely some good news that's in the air. So congratulations to the newlyweds. And of course, congratulations to the new addition to the family. So, that's always good to hear good news out there, good things happening. And again, I'd like to know what's good and new with you. So don't forget to follow me on Twitter. And then, just tweet, you can hit me up there, Facebook or whatever. And I definitely would like to know what's new and good with you guys. So let me know. Hit me up. So today's topic is we're going to be talking about tablets versus toys. Now, this is something that me and my wife have talked about and then have, experience with. And then I went online, and I'll make sure I leave a description or link to the description below, a link to the article below. But it's from the Daily News Egypt. And it's titled Tablets versus Toys, Technology Threatens Childhood as We Know It. So, nowadays it's getting harder and harder to keep kids' attention. So a lot of parents, including myself, have resorted to, tablets and, little games and things like that. And for me, I've always kind of been tossed up, because I'm a gamer. And so, games and movies and media consumption is like in my nature. And, but the wife is more like, well, let's get some toys, let's, let them use their imagination, let them, manipulate things, grab things, touch the textures, So there's always been like I wouldn't say it's an argument, but it's a different thought process. So, I'm kind of on the fence about just strictly media, strictly being on the tablet, but I find it's a cheaper option. It's, you can find a bunch of cheap games, you can find a bunch of, free games, just little things just to keep them entertained and, keep them from screaming. And then you have the other side where, okay, well, if you buy them toys, after a certain time, they get bored of the toys. So then you have to go buy more toys. And then they get bored of those. And then you got to buy more toys. And then they get bored of those. And so you're putting all this money into purchasing physical toys. But they are using their imagination. They are manipulating things. They are, hitting, switches or turning dials and, working on their finger dexterity. They're using their imagination like they're running around, in the spaceship and when they're in a box. I mean, just so many different things that they're doing, but it gets expensive. And I'm looking at this article, and it talks about like the closure of Toys R Us and how toys are getting really expensive and the dilemma that parents have. And it's it's interesting that this is an article from a Egyptian newspaper, but it's the same discussions and same topics, bullet points that we have as parents just in general. Technology, we could buy, a $300 tablet or or maybe like $150 tablet, and it's going to go a whole lot longer than, say, that brand new monster truck. Because once they get tired of the monster truck, then they're going to want another monster truck. Or they're going to, the next thing is pirate ships or something like that, and then you have to purchase those. Versus like having a tablet where, okay, well, you're done monster trucks, we'll just digitally download something. But of course, when it comes to kids in early childhood development, having them in front of screens is detrimental to their, I guess, educational development. And again, they are getting that finger dexterity, the manipulation, the dial turning, the switch flipping, and all these things out of using a tablet. Now, as parents, we know that technology is the way to go. At least, that's how I feel. But then again, the wife is a little bit more old school. She's a little bit more practical when it comes to wanting them to play games and wanting them to, we have a little dartboard thing that they can throw little, they're like little cushy things. But there's basically two sides of the same coin. We're basically trying to make sure that our kids are entertained and they're being enriched, and not just entertained, but they are being enriched and enlightened on certain things. And then an argument in this article that I read is that it may be cheaper and more long lasting to buy a tablet, but it also hinders their imagination and kind of keeps them in a more controlled environment, and kind of hinders their imagination and kind of hinders their independent imagination, I guess you would say. So anyway, I'm kind of tossed up between the two because obviously, money's money. And, right now, as far as we have a lot of toys and a lot of them are in his treasure chest, and then they start outgrowing the toys, and now we got to try to figure out a way to get rid of them or donate them or whatever the case may be, or find friends that, will take them off our hands. And it does become that much of a hassle. But we also understand that these types of toys, these little ride-ons and, these little, I have a bike seat that we've been trying to get rid of that, I knock the dust off and start, taking the baby for a ride again on the bike. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes with, the actual toys. Is you got to store them, and when they get old enough, you got to get rid of them, and then literally you're seeing your money get tossed out. So when it comes to parenting, there's always going to be that enlightening enrichment side and how much money you're going to be putting into it versus the convenience of, hey, I got a $300, $400, $500 investment in a tablet, and that'll take them all the way to middle school. We just keep buying the little $5 games here, or trying to find whatever free game is there. But I do believe there is, I guess it's detrimental. I don't know how to piece that together, but it's detrimental for their development if that's all you're going to go. So, I guess in conclusion of reading this, my whole thing is we're doing our best with it, is to find that balance. And again, everything is a balance, and part of this podcast is about me finding my balance. But finding a balance in parenting, we're not perfect, and, hopefully, there's a new parent out there that's maybe listening to this and kind of, oh, okay, those make sense. Both arguments make sense. And, you're going to do the best for your child and for your family and your situation that you can. But, understand, don't just because the kid is not screaming or you found something to pacify them, that's actually, it might be good for you and it might be good temporarily, but to solely rely, and I'm specifically talking about tablets and digital media, to solely rely on something like that is really not going to be the best for you. And again, this is my opinion on it. It's definitely not going to be the best for us. But then, owning toys, storing toys, trying to get rid of toys, it is a hassle. And a lot of these toys require batteries. Don't forget the batteries. And then don't forget to get replacement batteries, because if they really love the item, once it starts dying, they're going to be like, hey, I need new batteries. And that costs a lot of money, because a lot of these toys don't come with rechargeables, and your tablet is rechargeable. So, in conclusion, for me, it's about finding a balance. Like, we do have the tablet for the movies, the car rides. Sometimes when they're getting crazy when we go out to dinner, we put a video on for them. But when we're at home, I know I work a lot, but I try to, sit down with them, play with them with their little cars, or read a book to them, sit and watch their shows with them, and like kind of ask questions of them about it. And but that's not the reality for everybody. Obviously, a lot of us work. They're in daycare half the day or maybe most of the day, and by the time you're sitting down with your kid at night, it's dinner time and it's time to put him to bed so you can do it again tomorrow. Unfortunately, that's where we're at as far as like a society goes, and as parenting goes. And another thing is if that's what your situation is, understand that you're not alone. A lot of the times, we got to pay the bills, and I'll tell you, I feel bad a lot of the times when I come home and I'm upset, and I've had a long day at work and I kind of don't want to deal with the kids or whatever, and I come across as being upset, mean, mad, for no apparent reason. And there's something I'm fighting with. Again, there's that finding the balance in parenting and kind of understanding, like, you can't you can't take out your frustration on them. So you want to like put them in front of a screen, or you want to, you want to not do what you're supposed to do, but you're gonna have to fight through it some days. Like some days, like, man, I haven't seen you all day, or maybe it's been be working long hours and hadn't seen them all week, and maybe an extra 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, just sitting with them and seeing what they read or read to them, that'll, yeah, you're gonna be tired, but it'll be good for them. It'll be good for you to sit down, slow down, and kind of focus on what the reason why you went to work today. So anyway, I know we kind of went on a tangent on that article, but again, it is something that we face as parents, as new parents. Be aware, especially as time goes by. Technology is going to get more and more. Like, you have robots now that could be your friends. Compared to, why don't you just go out and get some friends? Anyway, mostly this talks about like the early childhood development thing. I also like to try to talk about something about the big guy. Because we do have a teen. We have teens, and I have a teen and a toddler. So, man, with the teen, it's a whole lot different, really. He's really into books, and we're trying to get him into, he's in the Air Force ROTC, so we're trying to keep him active in that. And but the same thing goes with them. You don't let them get so caught up in those online video games that they're not out there creating those social skills, those one-to-one discussion skills, and don't even know how to make friends anymore, in real life. So yeah, just you got to find that balance between the tech and the toys, and it's gonna get expensive either way. Hell, you had kids, you knew that was gonna be expensive. So anyway, I would like to hear your thoughts about it. Go ahead, I'll leave the link to the article that I read, and then of course the thought process that we had is possibly one that you guys have already had. So let me know what you think. Again, you can follow me out on Twitter. Hit me up on Twitter. It's at Sean Flack. Go to the website at SeanFlack. Or not at, but SeanFlack.com, or hit up the Facebook page. So moving on. Again, I would like to hear what you guys think about that topic. But moving on, we're gonna go into Holla at Your Homie. So, Holla at Your Homie. So this week, and you'll probably, if you follow me on Facebook, if you're my personal friend on Facebook, or you're on the Dad's Life podcast or the Sean Flack 2.0 Facebook page, you'll notice that I do a lot of promoting for things that I support. So one of the major things that I always put out there, and not only is it repetitive, it may seem repetitive, but they always constantly put out content. They have content, I want to say 5 out of the 7 days a week. If I'm just thinking in my head, yeah, 5 out of the 7 days they put out content. So what I'm talking about is the Gamezilla media folks. Now, I call this section Holla at Your Homie because there are a lot of them that, I met Grim, He came out here for is it called League? Yeah, a League of Legends championship that was on the West Coast. So I was able to meet up with him and Spidey2KX, and he's a streamer. And then, of course, so yeah, he's my homie. So I'm going to talk about Gamezilla Media and the different people that do the streaming or do the shows or whatever, but I can't talk about any of that until I first talk about Grimlock the Dino. So obviously, as a gamer, and if you're a gamer, you know that we all have gamer tags. We all have who we are online. And so Grimlock the Dino, you can check him out, GamezillaMedia.com. So I'll just put that plug in there. But personally speaking, to Grim and like kind of like what he's done and what I know of how this whole thing got started. But my first impressions of Grim, I want to say when I first joined, because my brother Dwight is the one that put me on to like the whole Gamezilla Media hype and podcasts and all that stuff. I went into their Discord and they're very friendly, and I want to say within the first couple weeks or whatever, I was already gaming with Grim. Now, Grim is he's the CEO, founder of the Gamezilla Media Gamezilla Media, and I guess it was called Bit by 8-Bit before that. But basically, he had done all these podcasts, and it's something that he always wanted to do. And it was cool to be included in a gaming community that's positive. That's not, there is competitive games, there is this, there is that, but in a lot of communities you go into, there's a lot of drama, there's a lot of competition, I guess, and then of course comes the competition. There's a lot of ish talking and all this stuff. But when I joined their community, it was more about community. It was more about, our love for just playing games and not just one type of game. Was what came more apparent. And then of course, again, what my first interaction was, me and Grim were playing a game. I think we were playing League, and like we stopped playing League, but we're still chatting it up. And I want to say we probably chatted up for like 3 hours and just kind of talked to, like, I had all these questions, like, how'd you start this? And like all these things. And he was just very open and very like excited to talk about the podcast and the gaming and, what it came from and why he did it and all these things. So I love the fact that, he was able to take time out of, what he was doing and, whatever. Like I said, we probably talked for 3 hours after we stopped gaming, just shooting the shit. And I thought that was a very good first experience, especially since, it's a podcast and they do, oh, well, if you guys have questions, let us know. And then when you have a question, they actually answer it or they actually interact. So that was definitely not only the positivity, but the interaction. And then, of course, in joining the community and feeling very welcome. And, it was just like the trifecta, like the perfect storm. So I push a lot of their stuff a lot just because they have a gang of different shows, which I'll be plugging. But I couldn't talk about, some of my favorites, which the whole Gamezilla Media team, and I'll just briefly go over. You have the Gamezilla podcast that originally, when I started, had Jazzy Fiddle, Grim, Lock the Dino, and then the Deadite Knight. And then they were joined by Testonomics. And then as the season or the year had went by, Jazzy had to end up doing, he ended up, life. And then next thing you know, it was just Grim and Deadite doing the podcast, which again, these guys are great. All 4 of them, I really loved all 4 of them on there because of the different perspectives and the camaraderie that they had. But, we're back down to Grim and Deadite on that show. And I try to, catch all their shows just because all of them are really good. But that's the mother podcast is a Gamezilla podcast. And he's on there and how he goes back and forth with the producer, the Deadite Knight. I find it very enjoyable. And again, it's one of those things where you can be interactive with it. I believe they stream on Twitch and I want to say Facebook as well, like on a Monday, and then a podcast comes out in podcast form on Tuesday. So you can't talk about any of the other shows until you talk about that mother show because that's the one that kind of bridges everything together. It's about, the new gaming the news, the new gaming news, I guess is how you say that. Um, and then, of course, I'll be talking about all the other guys, too. So you got Deadite, you got Grim, and then on a Legend of Retro, you have their team that they have there, which you have Xander, Craig WK, and then you have The Glitch, and you also have Chops. And so they're on that show, which is the Legend of Retro. Then you have Noobs and Dragons, which they're on season number 2, but Craig WK is on that show as well. He's the Dungeon Master, and I'd have to say that is one of my favorite podcasts. Again, I'll be talking about these people individually and my interactions with them and why I support them and all these things and why they get that holla at your homie shout out. Um, and then you have Last Action Podcast with LPJ, Sphinx, and Hovercraft Joe. Again, I love action movies, and that right now they're in a sweet spot that hits almost every movie I've ever watched or ever loved. So, again, those guys, and again, you listen to these podcasts, you're like, man, I mean, I'm talking to them, they're interacting, they're asking, they're answering questions. I'm in the Discord, so they do become your online homies. And then what else do we got? Noobs and Dragons, Legend of Retro, the Gamezilla podcast, a Noiseland Arcade, which has Sean. I think that's Sean the Arcade Phantom, so don't quote me on that. And of course, it's another Craig WK show. So he's kind of like everywhere. And then of course you have the streamers, and again, just trying to give you a good overview of all these people that eventually will get a little spot on this just because of the interactions that I've had and the relationships that I built with them and what they're doing. To me is great. But then you have Craig WK. He does his own Twitch streaming. You have Matrick on Stage, which again, I've asked a gang of questions of him about streaming and just, the different games. And, so I love talking to him on his stream. And again, these are all Gamezilla Media Network people. And then you have Spidey2KX, which I met him when they came out here for League. Player One Miggy, EA Spuds, like all these different people that, you could just follow their content and be like, wow, this stuff is actually pretty cool. But we couldn't talk about any of that until we talked about the person that, in my interactions with them, and I don't know the 100% full story, but it all started with Grimlock the Dino. So again, in this last Discord, I joined a Discord for a local shop that's in the area, and their Discord is not that functional. Like and I kind of see the difference between a community versus like something else. And when you get into the Gamezilla Media Discord, you feel like, wow, these people there's a bunch of different topics and we all talk about certain things and we all share certain things. But then what brings us all together is we all love video games. And I have to say, the apex of all that would have been, Grim starting this with this core group of people and then branching out and building that community. And then, of course, the positivity of it, the inclusiveness of it, the variety of it all. And I've seen people come and people go, but at the same time, I don't think that has changed like the dynamic of what is originally built. And I just can't recommend them more. So again, I am talking about Grimlock the Dino, and go check him out. He does streams on Mixer, with Owl Zero, and obviously himself. Check him out weekly on the Gamezilla podcast. And again, just one of the cooler online homies that I got. That again, I was able to have the pleasure of meeting him and taking photos with him. Just I feel like, oh, he's like a celebrity guy or whatever. But it's just somebody that I follow. And he's been cool from the start. So, I want to support him, throw him and his network, his team of people that have created, what I'd have to say, part of how I'm getting my balance is being able to, be a gamer, be a dad, and, be in a positive, in a, I don't know, I want to call it family friendly. Like I think when the boy gets old enough, I wouldn't mind having him join their Discord or play with, some of them, having some of them maybe show him the ropes on certain video games. So I wouldn't mind that just because I really do feel like it's more about coming together over, like if you had a car club or if you had this just a gang of people surrounding and building a community around some core hobby, some core, some core similarity. Is that the word I'm trying to find? But so yeah. So anyway, check them out. Check them out. I'll be talking about them and sharing my experiences with them and what's really stood out with me. But again, with Grimm being the apex of everything, in my opinion, and what I've seen, and all the interactions and that I've had with him, check him out on his own personal stuff and on the network with everything else. So I could not, as like the folks at the Legend Retro, I could not recommend them more if you're into gaming, if you're into streaming, if you're into, and it's not just Call of Duty. It's not just, shoot 'em ups. It's, you got people doing the RPGs, the puzzles, the, racing and all these different games and just enthusiast things. So anyway, could not recommend them more, could not want to support him more. And that's the reason why he gets a shout out on the Holla at Your Homie section. So anyway, I kind of ran a little bit longer than I wanted to. Again, just a quick recap. The family's the family. Trying to find my balance is the reason why I do this. So when we get to what's new and good, it might just be the fact that, we woke up this morning and we're here to do it again, because life is life. And, you have to go out and find your balance. And that's what part of this podcast is about, finding that balance. And then, of course, we talked about tablets and toys. I'd definitely like to hear some of your guys' comments on that. So hit me up in all the ways you can. So again, that's Facebook, that's Twitter, that's going to the website, leaving me a comment there. And you can do on any of the articles or any of the blogs. I believe my email contact's on there as well, too. If you sign up for the newsletter, you could hit me up that way. So I definitely want to know, what is your take on tablets versus toys? And then, of course, shout out to Grimlock the Dino, the apex for me for Gamezilla Media, surrounding himself with a really good team of people, building a strong community that is all geared around one of my favorite things in the world, video games. And if it's one of your favorite things in the world, you won't be disappointed by what you're getting by going out there, supporting them, being a patron for them, or just being part of their really good, positive community. And yeah, that's basically it. So anyways, that's gonna be our episode. I believe this is season 2, episode 2. Always want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you to all the new likes that are on the YouTube page. The visits that I'm seeing, I get alerts from people visiting from all around the world. So if you're from France, you're from Ireland, or you're from Germany, and you've hit up the website, I definitely appreciate that. Just coming out there and seeing what we got to offer. As always, thank you, thank you, thank you. And until our next episode, be good to each other, and we'll talk to you later. Peace.